Chances are if you're watching this video, you've probably been trying to get in shape for years. But as it turns out, you suck at fat loss. And it has nothing to do with you, by the way. It's nothing to do with your lack of willpower, your lack of discipline, or just seemingly not having any structure or just not being dedicated. No, the reason that you suck at fat loss is because every single method that you followed up until now has simply been boring as fuck and not sustainable for your life. But here's the problem. You're the kind of person that enjoys a couple of pints after work on a Friday after a long week at work. You're also the kind of person that enjoys getting a cheeky little croissant with their flat white every single morning. And if I went on your Instagram right now, what's the betting that your saved folder is full of food and restaurant recommendations from your favorite local food blogger? And there is nothing wrong with liking those things. But what it does mean is that if you're going to go down this road of being a clean eating fitness robot 24/7, it is destined to fail. So if you are bored of fucking up with fat loss because you are living out of Tupperware, spending every single free second in the gym, paying rent to a Stairmaster, absolutely despising every single thing you put in your body, then this is going to be for you. I'm going to introduce you to the concept of the anti-boring fucker diet strategy. This is essentially the system that I use with all of my clients to get them absolutely shit up results without swerving their social life. So strap in, get a notepad out, get ready to take some notes, let's get cracking. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is the 80-20 split. The concept here is pretty simple. You're going to dedicate 80% of your daily calories towards the health stuff, which is going to be protein, it's going to be nutrient-dense foods, it's going to be high-volume foods, and it's going to be things like fats and fiber. And the other 20% of your daily calories, well, you can use it on whatever the hell you want. Now, the reason that this works is because the majority of your daily calories are still going to go on the things that are going to promote better performance, better recovery, that are going to give you energy throughout the day, and crucially keep you full throughout a fat loss phase. But there is also some wiggle room in there to enjoy just your favorite kind of foods, whatever that may be. For me, it's a winning combination. You're prioritizing the health stuff that's going to get you the results, and you're also leaving room for the tasty stuff that's going to make this shit even more sustainable. Okay, number two, we're going to be talking about flexible meal planning. Now, if I already made it fairly obvious with my social media content over the years, I am not a fan of your traditional bodybuilder wet dream meal plans. They're too boring, they're too rigid, they're not built for someone who's got a bit of a chaotic lifestyle, and let's just be honest, there's no fucking flavor or taste in these traditional meal plans. It teaches you absolutely fuck all about nutrition other than to just blindly follow something that's written down in front of you. But I will say this, meal plans do have one good thing going for them. The fact that they take the guesswork out for you. Let's face it, probably one of the worst things is when you wake up every day and you're like, what the hell am I going to eat today that's going to help me to stay within my calories, get enough protein, get enough micronutrients, all this sort of stuff. So at least with meal plans, it takes the guesswork out. You already know what you're going to have ahead of time and it just reduces that mental fatigue. So instead, I propose a better concept. The idea here is pretty simple. You're going to have the same 1 to 2 different meals throughout the working week for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. This is something that I've utilized myself in any of my dieting phases, in my previous photo shoot phase, and stuff like that. The beauty of this is, if I'm eating the same sort of 2 different options for breakfast, 2 different options for lunch, and for dinner for argument's sake, it means that 1, I've got the structure and familiarity there. I know how these meals are made, they're very easy for me to put together, it doesn't really require too much brain space to actually think about what I need to eat. But because I'm rotating those meals every day or every couple of days, it keeps that variety factor in there as well, and it keeps it interesting. Okay, part 3 of the strategy is something called pair it with protein. This is a strategy that's going to specifically help out anyone who's a big fan of pastries like me. You see, here's the thing with like pastries and sweet treats and chocolate and stuff like that. For the most part, they're not really super calorie dense. The problem is that they're very, very low in terms of volume. So if you're having them on their own, they're not really going to fill you up. And because they're not really filling you up, and because they taste so great, obviously they're highly palatable foods, it's going to be very, very easy for you to overconsume after that and just kind of open the door to just unnecessary snacking and completely blowing your calories to pieces. But we can get around that problem by pairing it with a protein source. Something I like to do myself is if I fancy going to a coffee shop one morning and grabbing a pastry, I'll typically just have a protein shake or a bowl of Greek yogurt in the morning. That's going to be my protein source. And then I'll basically have the almond croissant or whatever straight away afterwards. So in that way, it's still going to keep me full. I've still been able to enjoy it, but I don't have to worry about unnecessarily snacking because I am feeling full afterwards. So if you live by the rule of protein first, then the pastries, you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to stay full, you're going to enjoy the sweet treat, the real goodness, and you're not going to go off track. Okay, next we're going to be talking about calorie banking. So this is the part of the strategy that makes working in social occasions 10 times easier. The idea is that if, for argument's sake, you've got a big social plan coming up on the weekend, what you're going to do is you're going to bank 100 to 200 calories per day from Monday to Friday and add that onto your weekend totals. This way, you've effectively created like a high calorie day, but in terms of your weekly calories, nothing changes. You're still getting in the same amount of calories across the week. It's just now you've manipulated your calories across the week to create an artificial high day, but that makes fitting in social plans, eating out, going for drinks and stuff, just a little bit easier to work in without going overboard. And that leads me nicely into part 5, which is going to be how we're going to plan around restaurant meals. Now I'm going to preface this by saying that when it comes to eating out, it is pretty damn difficult to do on the regular when you're trying to lose body fat. I'm not going to sell you a dream here. As much as I love a burger and a pizza, right? I'm not going to come out here and say that you can eat out 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week and still expect to get really, really good, consistent results. At the end of the day, the reason that this stuff tastes so goddamn good is because restaurants, fast food chains and stuff, they load these things full of oils, fats, and sugars to give them the taste that they create. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't go and enjoy this and still go on to get in shape. What you're going to do is this. You're going to apply the calorie banking strategy that I just spoke about in the last chapter. Once you've created that high calorie day for yourself on the weekend, what you're then going to do is allocate a minimum of 1,200 calories towards a restaurant meal. And look, I know that sounds really, really heavy, but this is me just being realistic with you, right? So if you give yourself that as a bit of a safety net, you know that chances are whatever you end up picking on the menu is likely going to fit within that safety net. And then here's what you're going to do crucially after that. Once you have allocated those calories to the restaurant meal or towards eating out, whatever it may be, whatever calories you've got remaining, your focus is then going to be on making sure that you get at least 75% of your protein goal covered in your remaining calories. And every meal that you have after that is going to be full of some form of nutrients or greens to pack out the meal to keep you full, but also to give you nutrients. Again, we really want to make sure here that you've got enough energy and enough food throughout the day to kind of sustain you before you go and eat out in the evening. And also to make sure that you're not going into a restaurant meal absolutely starving and likely to fuck up and go over. All right then, part number 6, we're going to be talking about progressing around the pints. Now again, if you follow me on social media, you know I am a very big pints man. I am very much a Guinness enthusiast throughout the winter and spring. And when the weather starts to get a little bit warmer towards the summer, well, you can pretty much find me always with a pint of Asahi in my hand. But again, as much as I'm a big fan of the beers and pub culture in general, I'm not going to sell you a dream here. At the end of the day, pints do cost calories, and quite a lot of them, to be honest. The average pint is going to set you back about 200 to 250 calories. Which means if you're having a few pints on a regular basis, that's going to quickly add up. But again, unlike the majority of the fitness industry, I have a really good understanding of the social importance of drinking and things like pub culture and stuff. And the way I see it, I'd rather teach you how to enjoy alcohol in moderation without it getting in the way of your goals. So here's what you're going to do. Again, you are going to apply the calorie banking strategy that I mentioned in a previous chapter. And once again, when you have created that high calorie day for yourself, what you are going to do is allocate about 1,000 calories towards alcohol. Now, the reason I like to do this is because it then gives you options. You could effectively use those allocated calories for 3 to 4 pints. Or if you wanted to be smarter and maybe save some calories or go for a little bit more volume, you could switch to things like spirits and diet mixes, which are typically around the sort of 90 to 100 calorie per drink mark. Or you could do what I've done with some of my clients, which might be go for one sort of like normal pint and then also go for one 0 calorie alcohol pint afterwards as well. And then kind of swap it between like that. At least that way you'll be able to drink a little bit more, but it won't be anywhere near as costly in terms of the calories. And again, just the same as when it comes to eating out of restaurants or enjoying fast food, whatever it may be. You then want to make sure that with whatever remaining calories you've got, you focus on hitting the majority of your protein goal, building out nutrient-dense meals to keep you full throughout the day. What I like about this is that it still gives you some room to be able to enjoy just a few drinks and kind of feel included in whatever setting you may find yourself in. But crucially, we're not going to get to the point where it starts to get dangerous. Because let's be fucking honest, right? When you start getting a few pints down your neck, that's when bad decisions are starting to be made. And look, I'm not an idiot. I know there are going to be nights along the way where you do probably end up having more than a few drinks and it gets a little bit out of hand. And I'm not going to pretend that some of my best nights didn't come from when I've been in those situations myself. So all I'm going to say is, when fat loss is the goal and the priority right now, you really want to kind of keep those nights to once in a blue moon. Okay, part 7, we are going to be talking about untracked days now. Now let me start by saying this. I feel like I'm a bit of a realist. I know there are going to be certain situations in life where it's just not going to be easy for you to track your food intake. Because here's the way I look at it, right? Your results are a reflection of your long-term habits, not your short-term behaviors. Which means that across several weeks and months, if you are consistently tracking calories, nailing steps, working out regular, completing cardio, prioritizing the health stuff within your daily diet, if you're doing the majority of that stuff, 80-90% of the time, that's what's going to get you the results. Which means you're the 10% of the time when, you may be taking untracked days or untracked weekends for, weekends away with your partner or whatever it may be in those sort of situations. It's not going to get in the way of your overall progress. All right, and the final part I want to talk about then is diet breaks. So I'll typically give a client a diet break for 2 reasons. The first being the sort of physiological and the psychological impact of aggressive dieting. You see, when you've hit the ground running and you've gone through a bit of an aggressive phase of fat loss for, 8, 10, 12 weeks sort of thing, by that sort of point, you're going to be running on empty. Calories are going to be low, output's going to be high, and at that point when you've lost so much body fat, you're going to be at a point where your rate of loss probably slows down, hunger's going to increase, energy levels are going to drop, training might be a little bit harder to recover from or even perform in. And when it gets to those stages, clients can really benefit from just spending 1 to 2 weeks at maintenance calories to just kind of, almost in a sense, recharge the batteries and get ready for the next big sprint. The second reason I give diet breaks is typically always when clients go on holidays. I know this sounds really freaking obvious, but believe me, there are that many people I've seen in the fitness industry who will tell clients to still continue dieting throughout a holiday, to continue making better choices, get to the gym, eat better, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, fuck off. The way I see it, when clients have got holidays or big trips for work or whatever it may be, right, where it's just going to be a little bit easier to just take a break from fat loss, it's just the best thing to do. And that's why I bring diet breaks in at that point as well. All right, there we have it. That's everything you need to know about the anti-boring fucking diet strategy that I've been implementing with all of my clients that have helped get all the results that you see on the screen right now. Now, before I finish the video, if you would like me to help you to implement the anti-boring fucking diet strategy, as well as get access to my systems and my methods that I use with all of my clients to get them shit up results, how about you come and get 4 weeks of coaching with me completely for free? Over those 4 weeks, I'll be taking you through a self-guided process, which will be teaching you how I go about coaching my clients through their first 4 weeks of their coaching journey. And like I said, it's completely for free. There is no extra charge or anything like that. It's literally 4 weeks of getting an idea of what it's like to work with me and to get some proper coaching inside the Barbell and Bears program. If you want to go ahead and give it a try, just click the link in the description and go check it out. But that's all for me in this video anyway. I will catch you in the next one.